before that Pugh's estate and Pugh's house. This Lissadrone East was named after the fort of the Druid or Drone, or that fort between the rivers. Now it was in the other townland south of this, or west of this I should say. The fort was a habitation site for the early settlers. The Celts in this area are going back from 1500 AD to maybe 3000 BC. These forts were circular in shape and had mounds and trenches around them for protection. A chief or the head of a large tribe or family would live here. There are about 7 or 8 such forts in this townland. They would be called Lissadrone, and as one of them, a Lissadrone, is a small fort where unbaptized children were buried when burials were not permitted in the Catholic cemeteries in those days. O'Donovan and O'Connor of 1838 states that this townland had over 240 acres in 1838. It belonged to Arthur Pugh. Pugh occupied this whole townland of Lissadrone and had no tenants at all in it. He grew barley, oats, flax and potatoes. He lived in Lissadrone house, which is at the back here. The present day one. He states it was a plain building, while O'Donovan states it was a plain building, ornamented with a few trees and shrubs. In 1856, according to the Griffith valuations, the immediate lessor was Miss Elizabeth Pugh. The townland occupier was Matthew Flynn. He paid Miss Pugh £134 for it in rent, even in those days. The Pughs, although they are Protestants, are buried over in the old Killegary churchyard over there in the Glebelands, in the next townland. The 2 Matthew Flynns are also buried there in this plot. And now there was old Matthew and then there was young Matthew. Both lived in these houses down here. I think one of them was called Matthew Moore Flynn.
Up towards the corner, just out of sight now, was the old road, well, the roadway finished, coming down the hill, finished there. And then there was a kind of a cartway from here, and it came in through this entrance. This would be through the farmyard and kind of servants' entrance.
Yeah.
Down here then is a new road, which was made in the early 30s when the land was divided.
Yeah.
And inside then, at that line of trees, would have been the avenue into the house.
Yeah. Well, in this gate here now came the turf and the hay and the fertilizers and all the servants' work.
Potatoes, turnips,
Yeah.
in and out.
Yeah, in and out here. Yeah.
And you can see a pile of rubble there too.
Yeah.
Inside would have been a grinding mill.
Yeah. For grinding corn.
Yeah.
Now, that was the main entrance, the service entrance in here. And here is the remains of what was once a corn mill. He had a store here in which they ground corn, and there was a shaft coming out of it, and the machinery was inside, and it was worked by a horse going around in a ring, grinding corn. This, the ruins of this building was even here in my time, used by Pugh, I suppose, and Flint.
Further in now on what we called the servants' entrance, and the way in is a stream. It's dry at the moment after all the dry weather. And you can see there above the kind of well, if you like, it's a dam on the stream where they collected water for the house and farmyard.
Yeah. Down here is a train running, and I was told that over this there was a kind of a cart house or a coach house where the coach was kept and the harness, so that there would be a breeze coming from the river to keep it dry, if it would keep it dry. Yeah. An unusual place to have the likes of coach house.
We're standing here now, and I suppose you call it the farmyard or the backyard. The dwelling house is on that side, and here would be a line of stabling. I suppose for all kinds of purposes. Stores, possibly for cattle, horses as well.
Maybe the coach.
Yeah, because from that archery anyway, it looks as if that was intended for a coach at some stage, and then it was filled in. And quite possibly some of the people who work here would have lived upstairs in some of these sections too.
They would have lofts upstairs there, wouldn't they, for holding hay and...
Yes. Hay, oats, I suppose, and some of the farmyard equipment as well.
Yeah. They have unusual arches over the doors there, haven't they?
Yes, they're very well made. They're very well made. Even those flat ones now have a keystone in it.
Yeah. And over here I think was a bakehouse in this corner.
in the lower part of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the later addition would be a cast house, I think, over there. That would be a very late addition.
Seems to be.
Yeah.
From the look of this now, there was cooking done here. There's a big fireplace, and that looks like the remains of a stove. And over on the other side is a smaller one, and it's brick lined. And quite possibly that could have been the bake oven, the little one.
Yeah.
So.
Servants lived here, like this.
Right, and maybe the cooking for the house was done here too.
Yeah.
And the meals were carried across.
Yeah.
The slates in this overhead are interesting because they look to me like local slates. They're very thick. And they're probably quarried locally. And there's a big beam then supporting the roof over on that side. And I don't know what material. I wouldn't really know. Now, if you take a builder, those like little lats too, supporting the roof. They look to me to be fairly modern. And it could well be that the old slates were taken down and put up again with fresh lat.
Yeah. Behind me here now was a fruit garden. In the 1838 map, Donovan's map of 1838, shows this whole field inside here, or garden, filled with trees. Now over in that area there were some fruit trees, apple trees. Even the remains of them are still there today, and apples are grown on them.
You can see some of the small ripening fruit on that tree now, and it's fairly ancient. But I wonder if it goes back as far as 1838 though. But that big beak, I'd say, certainly does. Look at the girth of that. The garden itself, I'd say, is even bigger than the Castlereagh one. And that's reckoned at 4 acres.
Yeah.
So this is probably 4 acres plus.
Yeah.
Fruit, vegetables, possibly haggard as well.
Well, I don't think so. It was all trees.
Ah, yes.
It was all trees on the 1838 map. So it was the tillage was done some other place.
Oh, yes. So there's another one we missed at that side too. Another tree.
Behind me now here is what's on the Ordnance Survey map as Lissadrone house. The last man that lived in it was Martin Tighe, and then before that was Matthew Flynn, and then before that again his father Matthew Flynn, and before that Pugh lived here. I know that Pugh lived here, although many people in this town don't think so, because this house exactly here is marked on O'Donovan's map of 1838, and we know that Pugh was here in 1838. So we think that Pugh lived in this house here and probably built it in the year 1838. This is a grown house. Now, coming down here was the avenue. Going down that way, we'll see it later.
Over there in the corner from us now, there's a plantation of old trees. You can see the thickness of the trunks of them. And outside it is a kind of a circular ring that you might be inclined to think was a fort. In actual fact, it was built there to protect those trees when they were young, to stop anything from taking their growth.
Yeah.
So it would have been shelter and to preserve them from the animals.
Yeah.
The same would apply to this one here now. And it was ornamental as well as being a protection.
Yeah.
And the white thorns then were planted on that. I would say later on.
Yeah.
There's a little holdfast for the bolt of the gate. The avenue came straight up here, and you can imagine years ago a swanky coach and pair coming up with the coachman on the dicky seat and the others inside, coming up and swinging into the house. Now the interesting thing is what a lot of people think would be a new invention. That would be a sunken fence, or a trench really. That was to keep the cattle from encroaching on the lawn. And it runs right across there now. It's filled with briars and whitethorns at the moment. But you can see the depth of it there, and it would have been deeper than that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it has filled in over the years. And up here was the lawn, so they wanted a nice view out the dining room window, or the sitting room window.
Yeah. And I think they would allow sheep in to kind of trim it every so often.
Yeah.
but not cattle. Cattle were common,
Yeah.
but sheep were tolerated.
Yeah. So Arthur Pugh lived over here in and around 1838, and he was survived then by his sister Elizabeth Pugh. But I've heard rumours or yes, that he was going kind of crazy in his old age, that he was feeding some of his turkeys with guineas, and that some of the local workers used to they were able to smuggle some of his money away. There's also a story about Pugh too, that he was robbed at one time or another, and that he was a fairly powerful man at the time, but that some men from way back in Lissadrone West came and overpowered him and took away his father's carabine or one of these ancient guns he had, and also some valuables of jewellery he had. And they also they went off in that direction, and they sat down in some house back in Lissadrone West, and there was a flood going by, and they put the valuables they had into a horse's skin. It was called a horse's skin of gold, or the legend of the horse's skin of gold eventually. And while it was hanging on a tree outside, the flood swept it away, and so the fortune was lost. But later on, some of these men, I believe, they were captured and brought to trial at Castlebar, I think, so the legend goes. And I think Pugh was a magistrate, or I heard he was, I'm not sure, but I just heard he was, and that he would release them if they could return the jewellery, and especially his father's gun or carabine, which they failed to do, and I believe that they hanged for it. So the legend still lives. In Lissadrone Bog, back in that direction there, Lissadrone West, is buried the horse's skin of gold that was stolen from Arthur Pugh here.
Looking at the boundary there now between Carramore, Tamer and Lissadrone and Killigary. Now you're standing here at the boundary between Carramore, Tamer, Killigary and Lissadrone. This is the boundary wall here. You can see it's the stone wall.
Yeah.
It goes right back, and that stone wall extends itself right back to Lissadrone Bog.
Yeah, and there's a river outside there too, isn't there?
There's a stream running down there. It goes down by the old parsons of the Killigary out towards the man.
So Lissadrone east here.
This is
Lissadrone east.
this is Lissadrone east here.
And outside there,
And outside there you have
Carramore.
Carramore.
Right.
There's a legend about this spot here. That in 1798, when people were fleeing from Killala after the final battle with the French, or the rebels in Killala, that Lord Cornwallis's troops overtook a man here and they murdered him here. He was carrying his young son on his back.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be from the Lagan or something like that. But I was often thinking to myself that that's probably why this field got the name Mahan's Field. It's quite possible that the man's name could have been Mahan.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Was he carrying some kind of knife?
He wasn't. He was supposed to be carrying a weapon or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of some kind. That was the excuse they had to slaughter him. But any excuse was good enough that time.
Yeah, he's buried here, isn't he?
He was buried here. Incidentally, there was a drain there years ago.
Hold on.
Years ago, around the turn of the century, when they were cleaning up the drain, from one of the boards that were living out there in the gatehouse discovered an old sword in the drain. It's supposed to be in the museum in Dublin. I'm not sure whether it is or not now.
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate that is.
Yeah.
There was a sword discovered in that drain anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're standing on the burial ground of that.
I'd say that's probably it, because you know, that's the mound stones and the loose stones, and people had a custom on a property's grave or some grave like that, even up to the present day, where somebody gets killed accidentally or something, they had a custom of taking a stone and adding it to the pile as you went along.
Yeah.
Now when you consider that the main path...
Hold on. Now, there's a path here, Paddy, isn't there?
Well, the path, Lala, came along the fence here. You can find the step here. I think the step is here on the wall to the present day. We'll just have a look to see if the step is here. Here's the step.
Going across the river here and into Carramore townland.
It went down and out at Carramore White Gate.
Yeah, and where they go from there then?
Well, there was a path from that on to the road to Killala.
Yeah.
From Carramore, there was a road
Was
to
there?
Carramore.
Yeah. This wall over here, Paddy.
This is the boundary now between Lissadrone and Killigary. Incidentally, that was lead land in there. That was belonging to the British land, they called it. And the field itself was called Mooneen Moor.
Yeah. So on the left here where the dogs are, that's Lissadrone East. And on the other side was Kilgary. Yeah.
We're still in Martinsfield now, and we're looking at the old Leshy. And it's now, this field is owned by Brendan Brady of Lissadrone now. But we have Leshy here.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the burial ground for unbaptized children.
Yeah.
Children born prematurely or born or who died without baptism.
Yeah.
And I suspect that it's probably been a burial ground for hundreds and hundreds of years, because you can see the remains of burials. In the centre of it you have a kind of a mound again with a formation of rocks.
Yeah.
in the form of the usual form that those prehistoric
Great stuff.
graves.
Yeah, an ancient settlement and a burial.
An ancient settlement and a burial.
And a burial upon a burial, I suppose, isn't it?
It's probably being used as a burial ground
Up to the last 70 years.
1,000 years. Well, 1,000 years anyway.
Yeah, well, the last burial would be maybe 70 or more years ago.
Well, possibly.
Yeah.
It would be difficult to put a date on the last burial, because people when children died or something like that, you wasn't get much publicity.
No, no.
And until a few years ago, they didn't bury unbaptized children in consecrated ground at all.
Yeah.
Then Lissadrone Fort now, you have and inside in it you have the usual mound of stones. And to my mind that looks like the fact of some kind of a dwelling.
Yeah.
And I think myself that these forts were inhabited probably up until the time of Cromwell.
Yeah.
Or maybe in cases after it.
Yeah, well, up to 1600 anyway, or 1500. Yeah.
And if you look at the condition of the protected
Trench,
trenches that were
yeah.
round about, you know.
So this,
It's a hazard to guess though at how old some of those corn trees are that's growing there.
yeah,
I said they're fairly ancient.
yeah,
Here we had the entrance now to the fort.
Yeah.
And if you look at this trench, you see the depth of it. Now normally castles are bound to, they'll fill it in through the time, you know, walking on the sides of it and grazing on the sides of it and everything else. You see how they've broken down the protective wall there.
yeah,
But that must have been pretty deep when it was
yeah.
in its original
State, yeah.
original state.
So it would be an ancient habitation site, wouldn't it?
More than likely, it's
Yeah.
an old Farmstead.
Yeah.
If you look at the frequency of them, you get them, they fit in fairly
Regular,
regularly.
yeah. And there are about 300 feet over sea level around here.
Around that, yeah. There's the boundary wall between Lissadrone and Cadamore here.
Yeah,
But the people called the name they called this land here was called Rathlahai, probably after the fort down there.
way down there.
And there was an old boreen running along the stream here. There's a stream coming here, the stream that comes up from the old church in Kilgary. It goes
Yeah.
right on here, it goes right on to the Lissadrone bog.
Yeah,
And there was an old boreen. And there was houses along it too.
yeah,
There was 3 or 4 houses up here from, you know, and it was into this village, this
yeah.
boreen came.
It wound in and out along
Wound
the
in
windings
and
of
out
the
along
river.
the
Yeah,
Using the bed of the river in places as a base.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll go back. We're about 100 metres now west. 100 metres west of the old fort, we have another burial mound. The usual thing. It's about 20 yards in circumference, or maybe possibly 30 yards in circumference, and the usual mound of stone.
Yeah,
The place seems to be studded with them.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you had habitation sites, you'd have burials too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that was probably connected. That's another indication that the age of that as a living.
Yeah,
Probably people living there for thousands of years before they were finally
yeah, and buried.
Cromwell put paid to them
Yeah,
and finished.
yeah, yeah. Well, this field is Rogers Field on,
John Rogers land is going now.
yeah,
Well, we have Teddy's Hill on the boundary between the Mahansfield and the Limekill field, they used to call it.
yeah,
And you see the bush there.
yeah,
Well, that's Teddy's Hill. Tradition says that there was a Teddy or Lungine. He was a tailor. He used to live there. That's hence the name Teddy's Hill.
yeah, Teddy Langan.
Yeah,
And he'd probably be working for the village that was in the
another story
background.
told about Teddy. Teddy was casted a kind of an eye on a bit of land belonging to a neighbour, further back.
Yeah.
The neighbour was in the rear with rent, and Flynn was supposed to be the agent.
He was.
But anyway, Teddy had Flynn haunted, would he write to the big boss himself and
Pew.
Clay,
Yeah.
Pew, and get himself installed in a bit of land that he was much better able to pay than the other poor guy that was in it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the story goes that Flynn got so fed up with him at last that he read him a letter he was supposed to get. Of course, the band never sent any word at all to Pew to get the land from him.
Yeah.
And it went like this. A háile roin na chrochador go she's at Lissadrone tar sus to like Lee, all pulled them all. That was the reply he was supposed to get from after Pew. Well, in fact, I don't know whether after Pew was an expert in Irish or not, but it's...
He probably had the use of the language.
Yeah.
The same as Flynn. But that
yeah,
was
Flynn had a better use of the language.
that was plain enough for him.
Flowery or use of it.
Yeah.
No doubt. This was a posh well.
Yeah.
And they just come all the way over. You're at a big house beyond. Flynn.
For water.
You're way under her in the water in the kitchen there. You have to drag every bucket of water they use in that house from that posh well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did it also serve the village that was across the wall here?
Oh, it probably did, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose it was shaped like a pot, was it?
It was, but I remember when it was, when there was water in it, and it was just like a, you know, just like a pot.
Yeah. The old skillet pot.
Yeah, that was the case of it.
Yeah. And using it in the Lissadrone house.
They used it in the Lissadrone house. I never saw it dry since a year ago.
Yeah. And this is a dry year.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the old lime kill was now.
Where
Where
the,
the field was called the lime kill.
where the bunch of grass is over
Yeah,
there.
where you can see that bunch of grass there.
Yeah.
Oh, what was there? I saw that lime kill when it was in its time. That only that ripped it out of there.
Yeah.
But that time they used to have to burn lime, you see, for the crop. There was no fertilizers like we know now.
Yeah.
You see, and they used to have to burn lime just to...
Pew would have that. wouldn't it?
You were playing that,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was part of the farm place, that thing.
And so it was called the Line Kill Field.
Even back on the mountains, even the small holdings back on the mountains, the traces of the lime kiln.
Oh, indeed.
Oh,
Indeed.
okay.
Indeed.
That's why they're in it.
Yeah.
I think it was used by... They used to call it Bohacom here, actually.
This one out here.
This part here was called Bohacom.
Yeah.
And there was a wine in the avenue that's not in it now. But this was the avenue at the own house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went round it went round and into the air. It went round by the front of the house and into the air.
Yeah. Used by the coast.
Used by Flynn and used by the coasters and that, so they captured in all
Yeah.
the...
Yeah. Yeah.
People going to the bog then all Flynn made a game of sitting there. He'd just sit there and he'd let them go back with the rest of them field down to Killegary. They'd have to go back up, way up to Molly and in by Sonny Holmes's into the bog.
He wouldn't let them come up here.
Yeah.
This was the old match
That's what they
mill.
all marked them all themselves.
Yeah, the oldest of the
Yeah.
match. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he was completely enough
Oh,
too.
yeah, no, played it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
This road was made in when? In 1932.
This was made after 1930. In
1932, wasn't it? And you had the gatehouse down there to make.
gatehouse that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. These houses were built then.
Yeah.
That time.
Yeah.
Gatehouse here was built later.
1939, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our house was built in 1938. Here's in 1939.
Yeah.
Some kind of an old burial mound as well. I think it's also some kind of an old roofing altar.
Yeah.
More than likely, only the top slab seems to be missing out of it.
Yeah.
But one or the other.
Yeah.
It took quite an effort to put that thing standing up there.
Yeah. Well, there would be.
Another legend about an old fort down there.
Hold on. This would be an old burial anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, looks like it.
And these two stones here would be probably from the Ice Age.
They were probably rolled in from the field. There's quite a few of them scattered around the field.
Yeah, there's two of them down here too.
There was a few more of them up here I took them away.
Yeah.
You see, if you look at those here, they're definitely like masters. Come on, have a look.
And there's another one over there.
Standing on a jack, beginning to master of some description or another.
Now you were saying that under one of these stones you found something.
I did. I found a medieval top shoe.
Yeah.
There's an unusual shape. I'll try and find it. I have it somewhere.
Somewhere around here, wasn't
The
it?
exact spot, I think it's still. I didn't find it yet.
You think you found it there?
Just on top of the side.
Yeah, under the rock.
Yeah, and there were 2 or 3 bits of metal along with it. Again, I couldn't identify them.
Yeah.
Or some kind of limbers or something.
Yeah. Another ancient fort in Lissadrone.
Supposed to be one of the bad forts, one of the dangerous forts. Where the Sheogs were in action. They were supposed to fight a battle here around May morning. And there was old people used to say that if you came out on a May morning here, that you get blood on the grass. That's if you came out early, you know.
Would that be...
That's the tradition that there was a battle fought here. But this fort here had another story about it. That several different teams of horses that tried to plough this land here. They could never get any nearer. You see, there's a patch of an old stream or something going down there.
Yeah.
And they could never plough any this side of it at all. And any time they tried to plough it with horses, the horses used to fall.
Uh-huh.
So finally, anyhow, a few years ago, we were ploughing out there, just across the corner.
Yeah.
It's part of this fort in the Houthi.
Yeah.
Now, whoever built the fence through it, they didn't have much value on superstition.
Right.
Because it's the margin between the lawn and the church field, and this fence was built down here to divide in the two fields. But
Right.
anyway, we were trying to plough it with a tractor. The Ferguson tractor and a pair of ploughs. And the Ferguson tractor didn't fall, but it wasn't able to plough it. The strata was so tough, the kind of grasses that was in it, the root system, that you just cut them along. They just wouldn't cut it.
What horsepower was your
And
tractor?
just gathered the long, you dug it up in lumps, pulled the top of it in lumps. It was a type of grass
Yeah.
that was living in it. That was in it. You
How powerful was your tractor?
know. Oh, the
What?
Ferguson 20, you know.
Was
One
it-
of those.
was
Which was well able to pull a 2 for a plough. It's definitely a lot better than a pair of horses.
Yeah. I thought that fort up there now was for trees, young trees, you know, protection against animals. But
Oh, not at all, no. That was a fort. There were trees planted on it and around it. But if you notice, there's very few trees growing in it.
yeah.
You see, but the one in the middle is definitely, they used to call them a rosebud.
Yeah.
The trees round it is definitely in the case fort.
Now, what about this one up here? And there's a couple of legends or stories.
No, there's supposed to be a cave going from that one to the one on the mountain. You know, the two are supposed to be connected.
Yeah.
Now, in between them again, you have, if you notice, there's a rise in the land going down to the fort in Yearfield there.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at this fort again, you see this rise in the land again. You can follow it up with your camera there.
Oh, yeah.
You see where it goes right round. And it makes, you can see the ancient division of the land. That's where they had their fences between the land and they were flattened out.
Yeah.
Again, it's just the farm places, you know.
Well, there was some,
You can actually see the boundaries of them. You can see them much better in wintertime than you
Yeah.
can now.
what about the legend about this fort up here anyway in the tunnel?
Oh, the one about the tunnel, it was one of the friends that came back from India. He was a veterinary surgeon or something in India and he got sick. And he came home with one of those tropical diseases or something. But anyway, one of the sisters came home to mind him, to look after him. But I think he buried a lot of his stuff. I suppose they were afraid it was contaminated and it was buried there. Now, when they happened to lose a cow on the farm at the same time, and some of the workmen were sent out to dig a hole for the cow.
Yeah.
And they dug the hole all right, and in the digging the hole for the cow, the sister wanted the hole dug extra deep. Of course,
Yeah.
she had this other burial in mind, you know, disposing of some of the stuff he had.
Yeah.
And they found this. It was a kind of a souterrain.
Yeah. Going through the fort.
Going through, it was going through the fort.
It would be going east-west, would it?
It was supposed to be going east-west.
Yeah.
I remember hearing rumours about it from time to time. Now, how accurate they are again, you know the way these rumours.
That's not so long ago you were telling me
No,
that.
about the 1920s, I said.
Yeah. Yeah. And that fort up there.
Yeah.
There's another one over there in the corner there, isn't there?
There
Where the
is,
bushes
yeah.
are growing.
That's in sort of Farmstead.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Beyond
another
the
fort
top
there.
ahead. Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 good big sharp bushes growing in it.
Yeah.
No, they're fairly ancient ones.
And burials in it too, isn't there? Yeah.
There is. I don't think there are many burials in it. Because the graveyard was near enough there, and that's a very old graveyard.
This would be
That goes right back.
this would be before that, Michael.
Yeah.
This would be way before that.
But I wouldn't think so. I think the people that lived there worshipped beyond.
Have a gal down here somewhere. That's your house up there now, Pat, in the background, isn't it?
The gatehouse was down at the end of that.
Yeah.
But
Down here.
here was a well. They used to call this Tubber Gall.
Yeah.
And there's a story told about Tubber Gall that All women from Baden Hill used to go down pulling Gillis down to the shore and caught again. But I think two of them went down on a fine summer's day and here and they pulled a bag of cod again or something. And they came back and they washed the cod again here at the well after coming back, and that didn't do them until they washed their feet in it as well. It was supposed to be dry the following morning.
Is that so?
And Tubbergal used to dry after that, but it never dried up to then.
It would be the bright well, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I followed it down to about 10 feet and finally I lashed the phone and fell into the net close enough. I got another well up near the hotel again.
It was an old well, wasn't it?
Oh, it was an old well.
Very old.
The stone somewhere out there, there was a big rock over it. I buried the rocks over there. There was a big rock there too. And another one about, they were like the ones out in the next field.
Yeah.
And I buried them.
Oh, Paddy, this sits down here.
This is again. This is the northern side of Lissadrone. And you have Kilagary. And Lissadrone is here.
Yeah.
And this is the mainland wall here.
Goes all the way down to the river.
And the land out there, this was called there.
Was it?
The field outside.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And outside that again, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this field was called Grega until you go down to the river.
Yeah. Lissadrone. So that's where's your own house there?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
our own house here. And here we have the road we're standing on now. We're
Yeah.
standing approximately here.
Yeah.
And if you get a view of the road down there.
Yeah.
Look, and this was the gatehouse.
Yeah.
You can see the roof of it there.
Yeah.
It's no longer there now, that's dead. Taking the place of it.
Yeah. See it, huh?
Yeah, and that's the Kilagary boundary that you're looking at. You see it there in the photograph, in the area
Yeah.
photograph.
Yeah. And this is the road here,
That's
right?
the road, yeah.
And inside where the blue car is there, that's
Yeah,
where
just
the...
below the view, yeah, there used to be two big pillars there and a big gate.
Yeah.
Big iron gate. Incidentally, one of the favourite athletic pursuits was opening the gate by the inside bar. It took great time to open it with one hand by the inside bar, you know.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Oh, you saw the gate then?
Oh, I did, yeah. I didn't put it in the gate.
It was across the road there, wasn't it? Yeah. What colour was it?
I thought it was a big iron gate.
What colour? Black or red?
Oh, no, it was brushed. It wasn't painted.
Wasn't painted.
It was a cast iron gate. With cast iron frame on it.
Yeah.
And there was cast in it around the... You know, there was some of the irons of it, they were like spears for
Oh, yeah.
years.
So that was taken up during the wartime.
It wasn't taken up, but there were bits of it used, you know, bears were used for different things, for shoeing horses, making tips for shoes,
This kind of thing.
scufflers, everything.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was a few scarce the iron in the war years.
1939, 45.
Yeah, that was it. I
This-
standing on the phone, like, this is going to the area, the gate was here.
Yeah.
See the main wall both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see some of the stonework, you can see some of the stonework on the wall in there if you have to take a look at it.
Yeah.
But they built the wall around the stream and
Yeah. So this is where the gate was across here.
the gatehouse thing was there.
Yeah.
So that's where it is there.
This is Drone Schoolhouse. The Public Record Office shows that there was an application made for the schoolhouse here in 1830. Rathlacken was in the nearest post office, 1 mile to the northeast, and Killala 5 miles southwest. This school would be rent-free. It was not to be built on church property. The ground was provided by Arthur Pugh, who lived in here. The estimated cost of building the school was to be £15. It was to be 20 feet long and 12 feet wide. It was to have a room for the schoolmaster, 12 feet long by 12 feet wide. It was to be a school to educate the children of the neighbouring villages. Now these neighbouring villages were to contribute £5 in labour towards its building. The trustees were to be Thomas Palmer and Arthur Pugh, who were both two of the parish of Lacken. There were also 2 magistrates, and they were from the parish of Lacken. The request was made to the Commissioner of Education. It was signed by 13 Protestants and 11 Catholics. The Protestants were Arthur Pugh, Thomas Palmer, Oliver Merrick of Heathfield, Philip Robinson, who was a church warden, William Hustler, a parishioner, Henry Robinson, John Fidd, William Ormsby, James, Robert Palias, Thomas Robinson, Jack Jackson, and Mallet Lalvey. The Roman Catholics that signed were Thomas Tighe, John Kane, parish priest, Patrick Flatley, Thomas Flatley, John Flatley, Thomas Golden, Thomas Duhaley, Pat Conway, Paul Pello, Thomas Lynott, and Matthew Healy. I don't think this school was ever built or existed, just the application for it was made in 1830. This school was to accommodate 40 boys and 30 girls in Lissadrone. Oh, you were telling me there a couple of days ago about Ballinahouna. There was a couple of houses in it.
Right, yeah.
Do you remember any of the names of the people that might be living there now at that time?
There was a man named Clifford living in it. Harry Clifford, he worked here in
Hughes.
In Flynn,
Flynn,
Hughes,
yeah.
whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And there was Mehadis.
Oh, I was indeed. Pat Mahdis, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ford, I think.
Was the Waits in it, no?
No, they were living in Lakenhill.
Ah, yeah. So this Clifford man, you were telling me that he was a footballer or something.
What I understood he was anyway.
Yeah.
But he played for Laken one time in this area.
In the top league.
Up in this field here, oh no, it'd be years and years before that.
Was it?
Oh, it would be.
Yeah.
Maybe there pre 20.
20. Yeah. Was that when they won their what was it, this county championship?
No, I don't think so. That was 1911, was it? Or
Yeah.
1909 or something like that. Round them years. Maybe to be that. I don't know what he was doing after that or not. I don't think he was.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So he left there and immigrated away somewhere, did he?
He went to America instead of
So all that village, you never remember seeing houses in it except maybe Pat Mahdis.
Pat Mahdis was the only house I saw. I never saw any house in the whole village, which was all I ever saw the walls.
Yeah. Yeah. The post back in Ireland there now, and there was a Father Brown supposed to be living there at one time.
Yeah.
You hear about an old church or something, did you?
There's an old building in the fort. Just the foundations of that.
Yeah.
I took some of the stones over years ago, but there was last time I took on before that, so it was level down,
Yeah.
the ground level.
Yeah,
Like.
yeah. You didn't hear anybody saying that there was a church there or anything, or
I have that feeling that there was a church there, there was supposed to be a priest staying in it.
yeah. And a church in it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's in Ireland there, just on the far end of this townland here.
Yeah.
Yeah, behind the wood.
Just behind the water,
Yeah.
the stairs behind the water.
This is O'Donovan's map of 1838.